What was it like with Succession when that like blew up?
I went to like this Emmy after party. In the middle of this after party, someone gets onto the like piano and starts playing dun, 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 and everyone was like, "Whoa!" And they're playing like the Succession like orchestral theme song on a piano, and people are like losing their shit like it's Cardi B.
Justine, welcome to One Nightstand. We're so thrilled to have you here.
I'm so excited to be here.
And you chose 5 incredible books.
Thank you.
They were so fun.
Yay.
Have you always been a big reader?
You know, I grew up with people reading to me. Like,
nice.
my mom always read to us when we were kids. I had an incredible 4th grade teacher named Miss Loftus who was like just the best reader. I remember that really well. And she also would bring in this woman named Lady Jones who would read to us. So like I had all these like really amazing women reading to me all throughout my childhood. But it's really funny, I was thinking about this as I was reading these books, and I was like, I never really, like when you imagine like the child who's like voraciously reading, that was just not me as a kid.
It wasn't me. I wasn't that way either. I got into it more when I was older.
Yeah, I'm like, what was the first book that I really like dove into? And I think it was Harry Potter.
Oh, yeah, I mean, well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was pretty old. I was like 13 or something before
I was never one of those like bookwormy children either.
No, I was like far more like out and about and running
but
around.
Like adult readers love to tell you if they were a bookworm.
Totally.
Oh my God.
Totally.
They can't
totally.
wait
They're
to
like,
fucking
I was
tell you.
always carrying a book around. I'm like, not I.
No, me neither. And like dirt everywhere.
Yeah,
just
totally.
like disgusting.
But I did love being read too. I remember that really well. I loved people reading to me, and I was good at reading. I always did really well in school with reading and writing, so I'll brag about that.
Yeah, nailed it. Well, let's start with East of Eden by John Steinbeck. Tell me about your love of that book.
Okay, so when I got asked to do this, I had not finished East of Eden. But I kind of saw it as like divine intervention. I was like, wait, there's this thing where they're going to ask me what my favorite books are. And I was like halfway through, which it's a monster book. It's like big, 600 and something pages. But I was so in love with it at that point that I was like, I've got to finish this. And it was kind of like this double-edged sword of like, I really got to dive in even more. And like just like every break I had, I was just like in it. And also I was like, I don't want it to be over, and it sucked that I couldn't like savor it. But it's the most incredible book I've ever read, which is part of why I like had to get it done before this talk, because I was like, it's so special. It's incredible. And I don't even know how to approach it because there's just so much richness to it. It felt like every single moment was like full of like soul.
Yeah, it feels very cinematic, I think, when you're reading it. Like it's so sort of grand in scale.
Totally. Well, yes, like it spans from like what, like I think from the end of the Civil War to the beginning of World War I.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's massive, and I also feel like it's cinematic because the characters are like so incredibly fleshed out. They're all so colorful, like the good and the bad. They're all just like so much fun to read about and have each of their own incredible identities. And there's just like, I almost like feel like it's the kind of thing, you know, I waited to read this book because I had a boyfriend when I was in my 20s that had Tim Scholl, which I don't know if you've gotten to that part or, you know, if you remember it, but basically there's like this like incredible part of the book that's all about free will and the idea that you can choose what you want. Okay, so there's this Tim Scholl in Hebrew means thou mayest, and I had a boyfriend in my 20s who had it tattooed onto him, and he was a really crummy boyfriend. so
you were like,
so I kind of had an aversion to the book. I was like, ugh, I don't know about that book. And then I read the book, and I was like, yeah, I'm considering getting it tattooed onto me as well. Like it's just so full of like all these little lessons that you like truly want to carry with you as a person.
Yeah.
And that's kind of an incredible treat.
Totally. And all of these like really complicated relationships, and sort of like I loved reading about is it Samuel Hamilton and his wife, and like the wife and the dynamic, and like I don't know, like it just feels so like real.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, I mean it's amazing.
Yeah, totally. Their dynamic is really sweet. Samuel is my favorite character by far. Like and in my mind I was like, who would I cast as Samuel Hamilton if I was gonna make, and I was like Brendan Gleeson, I think I would cast.
That's a good one, yeah.
He's just like it's such a special character because he's got such a fire. He's got like incredible will, incredible like earnestness, and a liveliness, and like a whimsical nature. Like, you know, he's this character that every single person gravitates towards, and is full of these like incredibly magical stories, and everyone wants to be around him. And yet he's also like this like fierce moral compass. He's my favorite character.
Well, I like when they arrive into town and one of the other people is like, if you go and see this man about doing your wells, you better be good to him.
Oh, yeah.
I was like,
totally. It's amazing.
And what about Kathy, though? I just like, I can't like...
She's wild, right? What an amazing...
wild.
You know, my husband read it before me, and he's part of like what swayed me into reading it. But he was like, Kathy, just look out for Kathy. And that was like his one takeaway. And when I finished the book, I was like, of all the things, like, it's so funny that like Kathy, but she is just so juicy. Like, there's so
juicy.
It's like unreal, that character. And what's also crazy is that everything that she does, it feels like it's like not dated feeling. The whole book doesn't feel dated.
I think that's so true.
Yeah, it's all like you could be reading it right now and it would all apply to like what we're going through. And yeah, Kathy and all of her like just the horrors.
The horrors. And the way they describe her as literally almost having hooves. I just like know exactly what he meant when he was like invoking this sort of like non-human.
Yeah, her little like pointy teeth and her like tiny little baby hands.
Totally. Oh, it's so weird.
And her end.
Yeah, fucking Kathy, man. What a like piece of shit.
It was like one of those things where as I was reading it, whoever she ran into, I was like, no,
go away.
Like, fuck off. Like,
Honestly,
tell her to fuck off.
I know.
Yeah, because it's just like something bad is going to happen to this person. Like, there's no person untouched when, you know, if she's going to like come into your aura, you're screwed.
Do you ever want to play like would you enjoy playing a really villainous character like that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Because it's like, so I was thinking as I was reading it, I was like, this would be such a juicy character to play in the sense of just like, because she has to perform purity so much while being...
Those drunk scenes would be like incredible, you know, when she drinks too much and she just goes like feral and like all the dark comes out. Like that would be just incredible to watch because she has like this like crazy mask of being this like angelic kind of like...
Exactly.
And then just to have this like snarling, terrible, vicious beast come out, it would be really fun to play. Such a challenge. Also, it's like, you know, the whole span of this character. I'm like, it would be like, what a beast, you know?
I know. And a lot of your books, I feel like there's a lot of like agriculture-y vibes.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. They felt very like big American, like...
Totally. It's funny because this one is so sprawling, but I feel like the other ones are like maybe...
They are more compact, yeah.
Yeah. But no, I know what you mean. I think that there is something about the land in this book.
Yes. And
like what I mean, even just the way that it opens, where he's talking about the valley and the mountains and the light and the flowers and I think that like he just so clearly paints this setting that is incredibly appealing to me. Also, like, you know, I live in California and it describes California. It's also like wild hearing him describe like the drought and like the like waves where you like forget that it ever was like a place that could like, you know, bring life. I think I am fascinated by like I'm just turned on by like great writing about like location. Totally. You know? So maybe that's what you're feeling.
Yeah, it's because it is those like big, like grand landscapes of like America. Because I think in any like I've probably grew up reading more British fiction, and Britain's so like small and like pokey, and everyone's like elbowing at each other, and like I read these and I'm like, the world is your oyster.
Totally. I'm from Colorado, so I do think that there's like a part of me, you know, I do the road trip from California to Colorado like quite often, and like drive 17 hours. it's not as bad as it sounds. And it's like the most beautiful land, so I do think there's something in me that's like drawn to like that landscape. I mean, America's just like, there's gorgeous land. So yeah, I could see why that might be something that I'm drawn toward. I also had an intuitive told me that in a past life I was a cowboy. So.
Stop. Tell me more.
I shouldn't even be talking. It's so ridiculous. That was all that was said. I didn't delve into it deeper. I was like, okay, cool.
Cowboy. I love that.
Yeah.
Are you a horse person?
No, I don't know where in the heck they got it.
Oh my god, I feel like I was like a miner or something. I feel like a cowboy is so like...
Cowboy feels glamorous.
It's
even
so
for me.
glam.
Like, okay,
I would have been like an underground peasant, basically.
I think at one point, if there is such a thing as past lives, we all must have been a peasant at one point or another.
I'm sure. Yeah, that's so fun though. Are you into spiritual things?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have fun with it, for sure.
I think it's fun.
It's like kind of gets me like imagining and it's like sweet and fun, but I'm not someone who like, you know, like lives by like, we're in Scorpio moon.
No, totally.
Like,
that's why I quite like I find seeing psychics fun because I'm like, tell me what's coming up.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, exactly. And then when it's sort of like, I think it gives you a lot of information about yourself because you sort of, your gut reaction to what they say, whether you're like, no, or like you sort of learn something
you, like,
about what you want.
What's going on in there.
Exactly.
Totally. So my husband is like very anti this kind of, I wouldn't say anti, but he's just like couldn't care less, and so it's good to have like him as like a tether to like reality, because I do think that if I let myself, I really could just go down the like woo woo like you know, like going to fortune tellers all the time kind of
it's so fun though.
It is fun.
It's fun.
It's like make believe, play, imagination time.
Exactly. Do you ever read with thinking about, would you ever want to adapt things yourself as a producer, or like do you ever read with that in mind?
You know, I haven't but I've always read like casting things in my brain. So like I always, whether it be with a friend or with someone that I know kind of like lightly, or with like an actor, I have a lot of time kind of imagining like faces, familiar faces. It's funny you say that though. I went to school for theater, and so I like have a really hard time like with the idea of dipping into like different kind of like paths for my career, because I'm like, well, no, you have to earn like it's like 1,000 hours was put into being an actor. So like the idea of a producer feels like so far away from me, but I have been like sent a couple manuscripts as like ideas that people could like build out. So that's like an interesting progression in my career, and I'm excited by it. I also just feel like I have a really hard time like admitting that that's something that's exciting to me, because I'm like, I haven't worked to become a producer, you know.
But I feel like, having been on so many sets, you like probably like have seen everything that you like, as in you see so much about how the sausage gets made.
Yeah, totally. But I also like, I'm so aware of the fact that there's so many things behind that, like behind the moment that leads to us being on set, that I have no idea what I'm talking about. But I do feel like it's something that I'd love to learn more about. So, and reading like the idea that there are so many actresses who have really like championed taking literature and creating like fully produced projects, like that's really exciting to me. And
that's so cool. Well, our next book, Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan, was adapted into a movie with Cillian Murphy, which I haven't watched yet, but I loved this book so much.
I saw that it had been made into a movie. I love him so much, so I'm actually really excited to see it. And I loved this book. I flew through it. I think I read it in like a day. Because it's nothing. It's like tiny. And it feels like that was such an like it felt like she was aware of that. Like it felt like she just like had refined the story down to just what was needed, like that there was no like superfluous like anything, like it's just such a quiet, direct like accounting of this encounter that happens. Totally. And it hit me so hard.
I know. And I thought the sort of like quiet violence hanging in the background and the way it's like always there was so sort of like, ooh. I mean, even I remember I wrote down this one line, or took a photo of the page, where he's talking about his 5 daughters, and he's like, he's already seen men's eyes following his girls. And I was like, that's not even like what the book's about, but I was like, that is just such a like the sort of like threat.
But it does tie into kind of like a father's, like his responsibility and his awareness of like, you know, his daughters. His daughters, the fact that he has 5 daughters is such an important part of this book. I wanted to say movie. It's such an important part of this book, and it makes sense, like that moment of him like catching, like knowing that men are looking, like that they are like prey, kind of, that women are like, the awareness that women can be preyed upon, and the way that it plays into this discovery and how he wants to handle it, and his feeling of responsibility towards it, I think it's like greatly impacted by the fact that he has these 5 daughters.
Completely. And it's like these 2 counterweights, the pressure of like, and when she's basically threatening that the girls will be like kicked out of the school next door and like, you know, and sort of intimating that, and he's like has his obligations to these 5 girls, but then other women and his
I know that ending is like terrible.
Yeah.
Because you kind of, it's like beautiful, and then he does the right thing, and also you kind of like are left with like not knowing what the repercussions of that will be. And I mean, I think that it speaks to something that we all like have to grapple with sometimes, which is just how to be responsible for the things that we see going on around us, and what the repercussions for being responsible for those things might be.
Totally.
And I'm just, it's just completely fascinating, and the history behind it is just like so tragic.
It's just awful. Awful.
Yeah.
There's one bit I wrote down as well that I just like, I keep thinking about, because it's when his wife says to him, where does thinking get us? All thinking does is bring you down. If you want to get on in life, there's things you have to ignore so you can keep on. And I was like, I mean, I feel like that's so much of what like my therapist is always saying, like, because you sort of have to, there is some truth to that, but it's also like, when, like you say, when do you put your head down and just be like, I can't think about that? And when do you say, I can't not think about that?
I know.
And so much of the stuff I see on social media now, and people ranting about, why aren't people posting about this? Why aren't people sharing? It's people like wrestling with that of like,
Totally. I just on the car right here, I was listening to an interview where this actress was talking about how she was like, I don't listen to the news. I can't. It disrupts my peace. And I get it. Like, I truly get it. And, you know, especially, you know, I have this like 11-month-old daughter, and there's like a part of me that's just like wants to protect myself and preserve like but I'm also just like, I don't know if that's the answer. You know, I know it's kind of not the answer, because if you look back at like the way that things have gone and how we kept things from just going, you know, the only thing that keeps us out of just going down is kind of shining a light and giving attention to things. So,
but also you can get so bogged down if you like spend your whole day like seeing all these
totally
things.
I think you have to kind of, I think you really have to, it's like it's a job to balance.
It is. It really is.
Yeah.
The only thing I didn't love about that book is and I feel like it came up a little bit in East of Eden as well, and maybe a little bit in My Brilliant Friend, is like the fact that the wife has to sort of play the like pragmatist while the man gets to be like moral hero. Do you know what I mean?
I do. I mean, I think that that's interesting. I think that there's something interesting about another woman who's like also raising these 5 girls, like being the voice of, like, she's also protecting the family.
Yeah.
So it's like not necessarily like, you know, there's preservation on both sides of this, and I think that's what's compelling and interesting about it. And I kind of like that it's the woman who's sitting here kind of like advocating for him to like bury it.
But exactly.
But I do understand being like, ugh.
Yeah.
The thing about East of Eden with that, though, is there's so many different women. And she is, like, you kind of, it's like the same thing as, like, me and, like, my cuckoo brain with this, like, horoscope stuff, and having a husband who's, like, tie you to the ground. Like, I do think that there's, like, Samuel needed that.
100%.
Like, Samuel, so it's, like, it's a different kind of brain, but it's not necessarily a less valuable brain.
Exactly.
You know? Like, it's actually, like, offering something equally important in her own way. Like that house couldn't have gone on with, like, how many children do they have in East of Eden? Like 8 or 9 kids. I mean, like
so
without someone who's just literally like on the ground while her husband's like literally in the sky, you know?
It also really tickled me in that with Joe, the youngest kid, where they're like, he's just so useless.
Whatever happens to Joe?
I mean, what is where they're like, he's so useless, he's just gonna have to go to college. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah,
He just wanted to go to college.
It's a very different.
Exactly. It was so funny. They were like,
I know.
We're gonna have to send him to college.
and even like Samuel's like totally like he reads and reads and reads, but he like hides the books.
Yeah, I know. It's so funny.
So it is kind of, it's a totally different way of thinking about the world than like us.
Totally.
You know? Like they're farmers.
Oh, they really are. They're like out
on their little
there.
piece of
I know.
dirt.
But I loved also in small things like these how Claire sort of like lets you know that the relationship between the Furlongs that they've like had some passion. Like when she talks about how there's like an 11-month gap between two of the kids, I was like, oh God. I mean, they were like back into business very quickly.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that's the other thing that's like, he cares so much about her. You can feel the marital tie between them, which is like another obstacle that was so smart. I love that book. Oh, but so I get what you mean.
Well, it was just, I mean, I think it's probably because I like had it in my brain from other stuff where I was like, I think I felt bad about how I felt because I was like, God, why is she being like so unsupportive? And then I was like, wow.
Totally.
You know,
it's funny too when you like have come off of like, there has been times where I swear to God, like I'll read like 5 books that are about like an affair.
Yes.
And I'll be like, gee, like is everyone just having affairs? Like what the fuck is going on? That was Stoner for me. I like read it in the middle of like a whole string of books about like infidelity, you know? And I do think that there was like, so I think that that's part of maybe what made it like a little bit like tired, where you're like, ugh, another woman who's just like,
exactly, being like
the pragmatist sort of like, and not really like in
totally. Yeah, it's really interesting, but it is amazing, and I loved it so much, and I love a short book. Like sometimes.
I do too. There's something. I mean, I think that was part of why I was like. Part of the whole thing that I was attracted to was I was just like, this feels like a master class in just like
tight storytelling.
Yeah.
100%.
It was just a different experience of reading a book than I'd ever had.
Yeah. It was amazing. I loved it.
Yeah.
Well, you also have the Neapolitan novels. So I bought My Brilliant Friend from my bookcase at home, but tell me about your love of that book. It's another one where I like held off on reading it because like everyone was talking about it. Rabbit it down my throat for years.
Totally, and I was like, go away, guys. Yeah. Like I'm like this like thing. I'm not attracted. Like this stupid cover.
Yeah.
Like, I was just like turned off by like the hype for such a long time. And then I don't know what it was. I think it was like COVID, honestly, that just like turned. I was just like, well, I might as well just like dive into something that's just like a massive undertaking. And it was another one that I flew through it, and I think I was just so attracted to this friendship dynamic and the way that it ebbs and flows through like a long life, and the like way that I felt about that friendship was like really interesting. I had a fun time like observing my brain, watching how I felt about each of them, how I felt about their dynamic, if I felt like it was toxic, if I felt like it was like this like a soul connection. I also just thought the location, I just was like, I fell in love with how clear the setting was. And it was just such a, it's so familiar feeling, this like female friendship, and yet at the same time like the world was so clearly built that it felt like a very foreign land that I was reading about, and I just really like enjoyed it, and I also like felt really tied to it. Like I felt really tied to their relationship and the moves that they were making. And book 2 I was just like,
I haven't got to that one yet.
Oh, you haven't?
No, I need to get into that one. I mean, I know what happens in plot-wise, broad brushstrokes, but yeah.
Okay. Get in.
I know. I just finished the first one. So
oh my gosh. I feel like 2 and 3 are like where it's at for me.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved the depiction of the like rivalry when they're young, like, because I think that felt so real. I mean, are you a competitive person?
Yes.
Right? That's the thing. Like, it is, it's kind of... But I think it gets at the way that it can be like just kind of fun to be competitive sometimes.
Yeah, it's funny. I was just talking to a friend about this because she's so competitive. And we had this talk about like the moment where it veers from like competition. This was like game related. But like the moment that it veers from like a friendly competition to like over the line, not fun. And I feel like I used to get into a zone where it was like over the line, not fun for people, because I would get so competitive. And it's something that I've like really worked on in the last few years. I'm like, it's like truly like in the middle of the heat of like a game, like pulling back and being like, this is a game. Yeah. This is a game. And then like, like having a more friendly experience because I just feel like the stakes of whatever game I'm playing so intensely. It's so dumb. It's so dumb.
I need to play Monopoly with you clearly or something.
Catan.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Have you done it? You've done it. Yeah, I play Catan. I'm like really into categories as well.
Oh,
That's the most recent endeavor that we've really dived into.
Yeah. But I think also in Nobody Wants This, part of, I think the joy is seeing that relationship between Joanne and Morgan, and that sort of like, because there's like elements of sort of when you clearly like love each other and have each other's back, but sometimes you're not like zigging when the other, or you are zigging when someone else is zagging, and that kind of like,
totally,
it's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, and they have a lot. It's funny that you say this because they kind of weirdly have a competition in their rapport and 100%. The like bites that they take at each other.
Yeah.
But it's kind of their like love language at the same time. It's kind of how they like. There's some like Shakespearean characters where the whole thing is about like the wit and the game, and I don't want to say that like this is like a modern day Shakespeare by any means. Aaron Foster is modern. Aaron Foster is a modern day Shakespeare. No, but I do feel like there's like something about like the game of the fight that it's like never goes too serious unless it does, but there's a lot of like bum 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 with the fighting.
Totally. With those two as well, what I love is the fact that I feel like it's about giving each other a space to show up completely as yourself. Because even with my friends, like, you might be a bit competitive over something, but I'm never like completely gloves off. Totally. With my sisters, that's a different story. And I think there is that sort of being able to like hold space for like someone to be themselves, even when in that moment they're being a bitch.
It's like ugly, yeah. Totally. Family is like, it's wild. And it's also like, whenever I go home, I feel like I like just like regress to like 16-year-old me, like the me that moved out. Like there's something that hasn't evolved past that scenario, and it's like, it's totally like there's like a primitive nature that comes out with that level of unconditional love that is really hard to like evolve out of when you're like put back into it. And these two, like their whole lives are like with each other.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of like full frontal like misbehaving, not good behavior. Yeah.
Where are you at with season 2 and recording and everything?
We're done.
Oh, you're done?
Yeah,
oh my gosh. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exciting.
Yeah, I think they've just locked the first the first 10. The 10 episodes, they've like locked them now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, October 23rd it comes out.
Oh my gosh, I didn't realize it was that soon. Oh, that's so exciting. Fast.
I know. It's funny because in my mind it feels like forever, but whenever I talk to people about it, they're like, what a quick turnaround.
Yeah.
Yeah, it shoots very quickly. It's like it's like truly like a 2.5 month shoot. Yeah.
And is Erin and Sarah on set? Are they both
Erin's there every day.
Okay,
Sarah's not.
Okay, I was going to say, because I was interested in the sister dynamic, if was like playing out there.
No. Sarah's not there.
Yeah, interesting.
I think she was there at like the formative stage and like pitched in. She's like a huge part of why it got made, but she's definitely not around every day. Yeah.
My gosh, that's so, and we had Leighton Meester on our cover recently, and I can't wait to see what her, like, she's got a part in it, this one, right?
She does, yeah. She's so fun. I love her. She's like a delight and so much more of a goof than I would imagine, before I knew her.
Yeah, interesting. How do you feel about all the conversations that go on about your character's relationship with Sasha and the like, that friendship and stuff?
I mean, I think it's fun. I think that, I have my opinions about it, which I've like said, which is that, what is fun about it is that that's like this kind of like ambiguous relationship that doesn't really step into anything like inappropriate or cross any lines. But I have a lot of fun with Tim. He's an incredible actor and an incredible friend. So we just have a blast. And I think that you can kind of pick up on that when you're watching something. Yeah. I was listening to, who was it? I was listening to Nicholas Hoult do an interview where he was talking about how like the times where he's having the most fun, it usually results in like people receiving it well. And I kind of do feel like there's something about Tim and I and Kristen and I, we have like a lot of fun together, and so it's like fun to see that people are enjoying those scenes,
Oh, I love it. I can't wait. I gobbled up that first season so quickly.
Oh, I did too.
Yeah.
I have fun watching it too. It goes down easy. It's very sweet.
Do you always watch shows that did you like watch Succession as well, like as a
I watched it, but I didn't watch it in time.
Okay.
I'm not one of those actors who's like, I won't watch anything, but I understand those actors.
Yeah.
I feel like when I was in my 20s, I would watch things and I would just like be like, and this is when someone shoots me, and I'm totally okay with it. Like I hated watching myself, and then I think it's like a matter of exposure therapy, and just kind of like, I don't know, just learning how to like love watching the thing that you're watching over like worrying about your vanity, not necessarily physical vanity, but just even like vanity about like, oh, my career is gonna tank after this.
Like when you watch something and you're like, ooh, like sometimes when I read stuff back that I wrote like 5 years ago, I'll be like,
oh my gosh,
why does this have to be on the internet
I can't
forever?
It's part of what kills journal entries for me is like, I read it once and I'm like, and this is when we stop doing that.
Right. And do you journal much at all now or not?
You know, I like sometimes will just like write memos in my phone.
Yeah, same.
But I don't have like a physical journal.
Yeah,
I've tried it so many times, and then like either I just like it falls off, or I, you know, like look at it and like I'm like, ugh, this is bad.
So I only journal on days where I'm really struggling. So it's just basically a legacy of my worst days. I just a journal will last like 2 years. It's just like a highlight reel of the worst days of those 2 years.
I also had a bad experience where my ex like went into a journal after we broke up. He was moving out of the house. He went into the journal and like read my journal and then like tore pages out of them and left them on my bed to be like, I read this.
Stop.
Totally.
That is awful.
Yeah, it was pretty intense. I mean, like, listen, breakups are hard. So I don't, you know, there was like no bad blood about it, but I was more just like, okay, lesson learned. Maybe we don't keep journal entries.
Did you confront him about it or just,
no? Yeah.
That's very big of you. I'd be like, what the fuck? You don't mess with my shit.
No, it wasn't worth. At that point, it was like I understood what was going on there, so it wasn't worth like shaming him.
That's a horror story that are great proportions.
Yes, it's a cautionist tale.
Truly. I mean, going back to My Brilliant Friend as well, I think like that threat of like male rage. Not that I'm saying your ex-boyfriend did it in a rage, but like that, like the constant threat of violence that's like looming with these men, and like when she describes it that they're angry because we were smarter than them. I loved that.
Yeah, totally.
But I feel like women need that on a t-shirt.
Yeah, the men through the whole series are disappointing.
They're so disappointing.
Totally. Yeah, I really can't wait for you to read more.
Oh gosh.
It is like, you know, it is like misogyny, you know,
totally.
It's like very, very interwoven into this novel and all of their novels, and also a huge part of 100 Years of Solitude as well. But yeah, no, I really want to talk to you about it after. But yeah, I felt that too. It's like just looming all the time. I know. And the sort of like constant like threat of money and like what that can do, and I thought, I mean, but it was the violence that struck me, and the kind of like the sort of like the dissolving margins thing as well. That I found that really weird when she talks about how she's sort of like, I thought it sounded like a panic attack, but when I googled it after, that wasn't what people like. Lila's character, she has these moments where she sort of almost like disassociates. Weird. Yeah. It kind of to me felt like a little bit of an anxiety attack or some sort of like coping mechanism. Yes. Yeah, I know. That is one of the things about it that I felt while I was reading it, was that a lot of the way that they behaved towards each other was just in reaction to all the things that were happening around, all the like kind of forces being imposed upon them. I mean, they also have like quite a bit of will, and they're incredibly shiny women. But I do feel like some of the things that go wrong because they're put into these situations that are kind of impossible.
Completely impossible. I mean, that's how like when she like can't go to school and everything, and she's just like at home with her brother.
I know.
Also, how do you feel about? So I think it's interesting that author is like writing under a like fake name.
I know. It's funny. I read another book called Trust that was written by a man, and there's like a rumor that is actually Elena Ferrante.
Interesting.
Yeah, you know, I don't know. I kind of like a little bit of like mystery and mischievous and this, and so I'm like, cool.
Yeah, totally.
It's interesting. yeah, it's like I would love to know what's going on there.
Well, quite, because I do feel like with authors, I do like read their bio, and I do read it often with that in mind about what I think they're trying to say. And it's kind of when you have that tool taken off you, you're forced to just interact with the book on the page.
Yeah.
And not be like, well, this is because she grew up in this part of Italy and then her dad died when she was 12 or whatever it is, you know?
I also wonder what her relationship to the experience of the books is as someone who's like had them blow up to the extent that they have, and to not be like, if that feels like a huge kind of like freedom that she has, or if it feels like I wonder what her relationship to that is.
Totally. I think it would feel very peculiar. Like, yeah, I'm not sure. What was it like with Succession when that like blew up to, because obviously it was popular from the beginning, but it became such a like cultural conversation, right? And
yeah, I mean, I felt excited for it. I feel like I was like I was like in this kind of niche, sweet little pocket of being like very involved with the show and like very close to the show, and also like not in the like crazy storm of the show. Like I was like one step removed from it in terms of like, I didn't feel like a lot of like crazy energy around me personally. But it was like, it's an exciting thing to know that people are excited and that they're interested. I remember there was like this really wild, this is like kind of like a name droppy, like weird experience, but there was like this moment where I was, I went to like this Emmy after party, and it was like at this like huge comedian's house, and there was like 2 like really big musicians there, and like there were all these people, and in the middle of this after party someone gets onto the like piano and starts playing dun, 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 and I was like, and everyone was like, whoa, and I was like, what, this is so bizarre.
Oh my god, were there like quite a few of you there from the show?
Bizarre. It was just like Nick and me, and maybe Sarah was there. I think Sarah might have been there too. There were like maybe a few of us, and Nick Bertel, who was the composer, was there. It was just it was so bizarre. And I remember that was like kind of the moment where I was like, oh my god, this is like a weird zeitgeisty type of thing, that like we're at this like party and they're playing like the Succession like orchestral theme song on a piano, and people are like losing their shit like it's Cardi B. It was like so bizarre. But yeah, funny. Yeah.
Did everyone start staring at you like?
No. It was the other weird part of this. This is like a very weird night. They like turned off the lights. Oh. They like turned off the lights in this room, so like they were
like, time to drop a banger.
Yeah, totally. And then like the stand up like did a little bit of like some kind of like chat thing, and then someone played more music on the piano. It was like a very cool vibe, almost like it felt like almost like a salon or something. I was gonna say like that. It sounded like a salon. But it was like an Emmy after party.
That's really weird. So funny.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I love that. I mean, that is a great like theme show song.
It's funny, I'm like trying to think of other ones that like have really, do you have ones that are?
No, not that I can think of. I mean, I
know what I think of?
Go on.
Yes, no, maybe, I don't know.
What's that?
Can you repeat that question? You're not the boss of me now. It's Malcolm in the Middle.
Oh, I didn't ever watch that because I was in the UK, but
that's like the first one that came from my head.
Really?
Okay, I'll go, life is unfair.
I love it.
There's something special about when just like an orchestral piece of music is like the thing.
Yeah. I can't remember what it is, but I like the theme for Industry.
I need to watch that show.
Oh, you do?
Tim Simons is obsessed with that show.
It's really good.
He said it's incredible, and I've heard that it's incredible. It's kind of funny how it's like, everybody says this, and yet it's kind of like remained under the radar for quite a long time. I need to watch it though. I hear it's just great.
It's so good, and it's so accurate of like London in that scene and that set. Like it's it's very, very good.
I didn't even know it was like set in London.
Yeah, no,
that's how out of the loop I am with Industry.
You've got a like real treat ahead of you. When Love Island's over, that's next up for you.
We'll do like an abrupt.
Although the accents will have some continuity.
Okay. We'll ease in. It's easing in with the accents to like a very different cerebral vibe.
What do you think Willow would have read? I was thinking about this. I was like, what do you think she would have read?
Gosh, it's funny. I feel like there's something about, and I feel bad because a lot of your guests have said Ernest Hemingway as like their, but there's something about like, you know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah, and like I could imagine that too.
Like her like kind of like feeling the like the like there's just something about it that's just like so like it's almost like a cool like there's something like, you know, it's like the drinking and the like, you know, like how like lethargic it is and like you know what I mean? I feel like she would, and to be like, I love Hemingway. Like she feels like someone who would like totally lean into like being like,
trying to find like a blue chip name that she could like stick.
Totally.
Next to...
I wonder how she would feel about like On All Fours. Like I can also imagine her being like into On All Fours.
I think so too. I could imagine her like reading like Arteza Moshfegh, the My Year of Rest and Relaxation, and like but reading it like 5-10 years after everyone was read it and being like, this is a really important book or something.
Totally. Do you know what I mean? Let a delayed reaction. I also could see her like really leaning into like an obscure classic.
Yes.
That like nobody knows, but like having fun with being like, oh, you haven't read?
Yeah.
Poor Willa. I'm really taking it out on her. But she does have a lot. There's like a lot of simultaneous like straightforwardness and like authenticity to her, and also like some like posturing and like imposter syndrome, especially when it comes to art.
Totally.
You know,
which I mean I like relate to some degree, like in the sense of like my parents aren't interested in the arts at all. Like I don't know. I think your dad has like worked in.
He's a visual artist.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think for some reason like I think my dad is so. It was like very it was very matched by like an aversion to pretension. Like my whole family was kind of just like, like pretense is like truly like top like turn-offs for me. So I feel like it gave me a healthy relationship to being like, if I don't know something, I'm very happy to be like, I have no idea, help me out,
amazing.
or like tell me about it, or like I don't have a really strong relationship to looking like I'm like an intellectual or anything like that, and maybe I could use a little bit more of that, honestly. As I was saying it, I was like, hey, it would be a healthy dose of a little bit more.
I think it's great because when I got to university, I like just felt like such a peasant compared to so many of the people who have been like reading so much from when they were so young, and I had like we were talking about this, Birmingham is known for its accent, and it's worn off a bit over the years, but I had a stronger accent then, and which is widely always reported as the stupidest sounded accent in the UK.
The accent thing in the UK is so like complex and interesting.
No, it's because it dovetails with the class thing so much. But yeah, the sort of the pressure to like seem literate in like artistic matters, I think, is often something that women like. Oh.
Yeah, no, don't have it. I don't have it. I feel lucky that I don't have it in some ways, because it feels like then it gives you like a lot of room to like get curious about
and play
things.
And just be like, I'm gonna discover this thing.
Totally. It gives it's like an open door. But it's funny that you say that, because I do feel like that's another thing that's like really explored in East of Eden, is like the feeling of like incompetence and the feeling of like rejection, and how it can like lead to, like, as you were saying this, I was in the class thing, and like people feeling like insecure tied to their class. Like I was just think about like that was a huge part of this book, and just that feeling of being like rejected or like not enough, and like that leading to evil, because there's this whole thing about good and evil that's like a huge part of this book. And like and I thought a lot about like how we got here as a country, and it kind of ties into the things that we're talking about now, is like this kind of like the dynamics of like feeling forgotten, or feeling like not heard or not enough, or like not considered because you're not of a certain class, you know?
Totally. And also just feeling that you can't transcend your beginnings. Like, even if you acquire different material conditions, in the UK certainly, there's this sense that you'll never be different from where you started in terms of your class. And I think a lot of those characters rub up on that to some degree as well.
Totally. Like Lee, did you hear, did you get to like the whole thing about Lee moving over here, and he's talking to him and he's like, you can like turn into whatever you want, and I'm stuck being this, like, it's easier for me to actually talk in this way that people assume I'm going to talk, like, because then they'll actually hear me. Whereas like if I was to speak in the way that I actually know how to speak, people won't even hear me. It's just really interesting. I know there's so much in it, and what's also beautiful about it is how Steinbeck like resolves the issue in the book by being like, it really just takes like attention and love to like dissolve that tight feeling.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
And it like that was like a beautiful kind of sentiment to turn to, which is like also like, especially in this time where I'm like, God, I just feel like what we all need to do really is like turn towards like love right now.
Yeah.
You know?
I completely agree. Well, talking of a sort of underrated classic, or tell me about Stoner, because that's obviously a book that became so much more popular in the last sort of 15 years or so.
Yeah, it's so funny. I didn't know the history of it. I just had a friend who's like a ready kind of friend. I was like in Montana for like a month, and I was like, what are some good books? And he sent me this list, and it was one of the ones, and I thought it was going to be a very different thing.
Yeah.
It's called Stoner.
I know, me too. When I got it, I was like, okay.
I was like, all right, count me in. And then it's like very much not that. It's like the quiet life of a man in Missouri, I think, right?
Yeah.
Missouri, like rural Missouri. Yeah, you know what I liked about it is, it's so funny because a lot of these books, it's like they like cover these like massive spans, and this book is like, it is that, it's like a massive span in that it's like a man's entire life, and yet it's like this like very quiet book.
Totally.
And like not too much happens, but so much happens, and like you get to witness like all of the kind of like, you know, tragedies of his life and the wins, and they're very quiet wins, but they're like impactful, and you kind of just like get to bear witness to this like life that most of us lead.
Exactly.
And it feels at once like very like small and kind of in moments I think sad, and at other times it's just like it's everything.
Exactly.
You know?
I completely agree. I think that's beautifully put. That's what I loved about it as well, and I loved the kind of the sort of like small details, like the like workplace conflicts when he's like arguing with his, but it's so real, because when those things are happening they feel like the only thing in the world, right?
Totally.
And then like in the grand scheme of when someone's on their deathbed, they're like,
I know, and they're like, and no one ever really talked about him after that. Like,
I know.
you're like they're his colleagues who kind of considered him when he was alive never talked about him.
Yeah. I also,
totally.
I love this bit at the end where he's with his daughter when he's dying, and she goes, "Poor daddy, things haven't been easy for you, have they?" And he's like, he pauses and he goes, "No, but I suppose I didn't want them to be." And I kind of like, I loved that, because when I was growing up, I definitely felt like, I mean, like most parents, they want their kids to sort of like settle and be secure, and like my parents definitely wanted me to have a very like stable, like go and get a nice job at a big corporation and have like get married, have some kids, like whatever. And this idea that I was just like, yes, no, we don't always want everything to be easy.
Totally.
Do you relate to that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like it's like the catch and release of life is like what makes it compelling and interesting, and honestly it's like there's no other way really. It's never going to be easy.
And if it is, I'd be bored.
Totally. And also it's like, I think, you know, the things that are the hardest part, I mean, when I think about the things that are going to be the hardest in my life, which are like things like my parents passing, or like my dog. Yeah. I'm very close to my dog. I've had her for 13 years, or like watching my baby grow up. Like, I think that what is painful about it is like its relation to the amount of love that you have. And so like there's just like no way to like live a life that doesn't have pain if you are like living it really well.
Totally.
So yeah, I mean, and I also just think it's healthy to have rejection, and it's healthy to have fails, and it sucks though.
Totally. And there's something about that book where it's like not even like big swing fails, it's kind of just like quiet mediocrity at points, which is like personal hell, like that my deep fear.
Yeah. And the other thing that I thought was really interesting about it, I don't know if you had the same feeling, but like it's like this like quiet, and then when he has his affair, it's like this like massive like opening up feeling, and you feel like life like flushing in, and then it's like, and then it's like boop.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like this sort of,
And he does such an incredible job of writing that kind of like he like puts you through it.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I know. And there were so many sentences that I wrote down that I felt just like really accurately described something. They were almost like meme-ish in the sense of like just saying something in such a succinct, true way that I was just like, oh, it's just like really good writing.
Totally. I felt that way I keep on going back to East of Eden.
No, but it is.
East of Eden, I was like, and we're writing that down.
Yeah, no, exactly.
It really, like, you know, there was so many moments where I was like, holy shit, how did he even, like, come up with this?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And it's just a sort of nice, like, it captures all the sort of, like, exploration and wasted time of like university or college experience, I think, like, because I was just like able to read books, but obviously I didn't read them. I was like out drinking with my friends. Like, well, you know what I mean? But it's such a sort of,
and he's like that's the other thing that I kind of like loved about it is he's so married to his job.
I know, and he loves it. And like I wrote down this bit where he goes, when he talks about some of the people who are studying, and he goes, as if they were doing it as if those studies were life itself and not a specific means to a specific end, which I was like, that is really what he believes in almost.
It's like a really sweet place. It's funny, when I went to school, I went to a conservatory, and I was just talking to someone about it, and I was like, I think that's how I felt about acting up until I graduated and realized that I had to like, you know, monopolize or like, you know, monetize my art. But like it was kind of like this beautiful time from like when I was a kid and would just like put on plays and do stuff until like the moment of graduation. It lasted quite a while. Like someone was like, when do you think you would want to, you like thought about like making a career out of it? And I truly think that like it was like just a life thing before I graduated. Like I didn't really think of it as like a means to an end at all. Until like I realized that I had to like survive off of it.
Yeah.
And there's something like really beautiful about being in school and that moment where you don't have to work, like you're out of the house, you're choosing something and you can put all of your attention into it.
Yeah.
Before like you have to worry about anything else and you just are living for like the thing that you're studying, you know?
What was that experience like at Juilliard? Was it?
It was like that. It was I mean, and it was also like all the other thing, like that when you're like talk about putting yourself through something hard. Like it's like acting school, and yet it was so hard. It was the hardest time in my life by a long shot.
Wow.
Just physically it was difficult. Like, you know, you're going in at like 7 a.m. and you don't get out until like 9 or 10. Like it's just like hours, just so many hours of like being in this like box. Like basically it's like one floor of the building, and it's like you're in these like rooms that are just plain because you're kind of like building your imagination off of them. Like it's very intentional that they don't have like colors, or it's like, you know, it's very like minimal, and it's just you're just constantly physically diving into things, doing like movement class and, you know, scene study and voice and speech. It's just like, it felt like boot camp for actors. It was like just intense and psychologically intense too, because you're just putting your brain into the same space with the same people for so long, and the stakes feel so high because you care so much, and also because there's teachers there that are like incredible, but also like are really like holding you to task, and sometimes like I think in a way that was like a little bit like discouraging, and like you're like, what? We're like, you know, I think there were a lot of people who had a really hard time there. Sure. You know?
Yeah, totally. Are many of your class still in the industry?
I have a really my class is working quite a bit. I have probably like half the class is like working pretty regularly.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's been nice to watch my peers like doing some really amazing, like I just had 2 friends who were in The Color Purple. Like,
oh, wow.
Corey Hawkins and Danielle Brooks, and Gail Rankin just did Cabaret on Broadway, and my friend Auden just did this incredible movie called Broke, and Jaquine is working all the time. Like, I just have so many. They're all like going strong. It's really cool.
That's
it's
really
like
nice.
It's a nice reminder that it, you know, can work out. And the people who aren't acting, I think a lot of them are doing really cool stuff. So
great, good for them.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so nice. That sounds like you had a fun. How many years is Like
4.
4 years. Gosh,
Yeah.
that's a long time.
It was a long time. It's a really long time. I'm so glad that I did it when I was just out of high school, because I think going back and doing it as a grad student, I'd be like,
no,
I can't.
No, absolutely not. And it must have been fun to come to New York at like 19 and like...
You know, I was like heartbroken.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I had such, it's so funny, like my memory of first year was just like so much like mourning, like leaving home. Like I like, there were like exercises where we had to like sing a song, and I remember singing like Rocky Mountain High by John Denver, and like I remember like we had to do like a poem, and I like did a poem like all about like my house and like all the little parts of my house that I missed. Like I was like so codependent with my family. Like my family is like such a unit that I had like a very, very hard time going to college. Like just like hyperventilation kind of like crying goodbye, like where you're like, I don't want you to go, like as an 18-year-old, like not, you know, like really was like preschool me came back, and I had a really hard time.
That's hard.
It was really hard. And then I really like,
and then you were like, peace.
all right, that's over now. Bye.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love it.
Yeah.
That is a lot though, and I suppose America's so, because I was like an hour away from where I grew up when I went to uni, so I could like pop home anytime.
Yeah.
It's just a different.
Where did you go to school?
Oxford.
Oh.
I know.
Oh.
It's so cunty, isn't it? I hate when people ask me. I'm like, oh God.
I know the feeling. Like I feel like so I like really don't like it, because it's saying Juilliard. It just like comes off like,
I know,
like,
exactly.
Like, go home.
And I think also for me, like I didn't love it. Like I made the most of it, but I felt out of place there a lot of the time. Like it was a very... I mean, I think when I was there, it was still half of the intake were like private school kids, and the rest of us who were state school kids were like, and I went to a state grammar, which is like where you pass an exam. So it was like the middle ground, if anything, but my parents didn't have any money to pay for it. But it was very divided. But
gosh, it's such a thing. Huh?
It's such a thing.
Like hearing you talk about it like several times in this conversation, I'm like, wow, it's fascinating.
It really like hangs around you your whole life in a way that and I think whenever people ask me about uni, they want me to be like, oh, it was like Brideshead Revisited. And I'm like, oh. I mean, it was sometimes, but a lot of the time it was not. But
No, totally. I feel the same thing when people ask me about Juilliard. It's like far more complex than just being like, it was amazing.
Right. Anyway. But sounds like we all had better times than Stoner. Anyway.
Totally.
Well, your last book, 100 Years of Solitude, just we'll end on a light one, by Gabriel García Márquez. Tell me about your love for that book.
Okay, so I read this in high school. It's kind of the first book I remember reading past Harry Potter.
Oh.
Like I think that I had this incredible teacher. Her name was Miss Sparks. She was great, and it's funny, in retrospect, she just taught this book so well. She was not shy about it in any way. There's a lot in this book that's like, you know, there's incest, there's a lot of sex, there's a lot of, you know, like toxic masculinity, and she was like so brave about teaching it. There was like no weird, like there was no stigma against it. There was nothing taboo. She just felt like really curious. And so I just remember being so into it. Like I just had so much fun with it. It's so colorful. It's so imaginative. It's so like far out. Like it is a trippy book. He is on something. Like I feel like he's like got some kind of access to like different dimensions or something, because he like kind of is like hitting on like parallel universes and timelessness and it's just, I didn't know about magical realism obviously, and so it was like kind of the first time that, you know, I just read Harry Potter, and there's like obvious magic, but this was like a different thing. It was like magic married to soul and like substance, and
it creeps up on you. You'll be like reading a sentence about something so ordinary and so sort of, and then suddenly the magic elements.
And suddenly
like,
she like floats into the air because she's too good for the earth. Like there's just these beautiful images that have stuck with me.
Yeah.
Even now, I haven't read it since. I haven't read it since I was in high school, and I still remember little things like that, or the grandmother growing so small that you could put her in a pocket. They're just beautiful images that I've taken with me, and I also felt like I had to work at it, and I liked that, knowing there was something about being that age, being in high school, and I had to work hard to read this book.
I completely agree. I had this conversation with an author on Monday, and he was talking about how it's bullshit that it's okay, the idea that books can shouldn't be hard, and I was like, I sort of disagree. I think it's okay at some point, especially when you're young and you're developing the muscle. It's like learning to run. You sort of get better at it.
Yeah, totally. Listen, there's some books that I gave up on.
Oh yeah.
Like Infinite Jest.
Oh yeah, no, I've never even.
I gave up. This book though, I just remember I had the tree for all the family members, because there's just so many of the same guy with the same name, and you're
totally.
Wow. I still remember writing that out, and as I was reading it, I would look over to my little tree and remember who they were talking about, and I remember I just remember it wasn't easy. I wasn't really used to reading all the time, and it was advanced and for me.
Yeah.
And I stuck with it, and I remember feeling so proud of myself that I'd read it, and I loved talking about it. It was the first time where I was I don't know, really engaged with the book in that way, and felt so proud of myself, and felt the feeling of pride in reading a book. I still feel that way. There's times where I read something and I'm I'm proud that I read that book, and I'm proud of being able to talk about it and being excited about it, and I do feel it did something to me internally. It actually changed me.
Yeah.
And there's something to be proud of.
Oh, 100%. And that's what I love most about reading now, is that because I am very guilty of double screening. If I'm watching TV, I'll have my phone in my hand. I have to really make an effort not to.
Me too. Yeah.
And you can't do that with a book.
No.
I can't even do it when I'm listening to a book, if I'm listening to something. Because with East of Eden, I've been reading and listening. And it's actually very good. East of Eden is a good one to listen to.
Yeah, he's great. I listened to part of it as well. It's good. I would drive and listen to it.
Exactly.
He's great. Whoever that is.
Right? The voices.
Really it's a perfect voice. He's got it feels timeless, his voice. It fits right into that time
era. Totally. There's something very Spartan about it, but soulful.
But no, I couldn't listen to it while I was knitting.
You can't.
No.
I the most I could do was when I was cleaning. I was cleaning my apartment, and I was I could do that because I wasn't really
It's mindless.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally.
But yeah, that's the joy of reading. I think everyone has a book that when they were a teenager, that if they love reading now, it was one of the books that converted them to that. And actually my colleagues, that's her book as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I really also, I just think back on Miss Sparks, and I'm because now it's I'd be scared to be a teacher teaching complex thoughts, complex to talk about even sex. I'm and there's all kinds of sex in that book.
Yeah.
In high school, to be a teacher teaching about it, and to do it with such a lack of fear.
Yes.
It's I still remember that. I don't remember I don't remember feeling skittish around any of the things that she was explaining.
It sounds like she trusted you. And I think that's the thing. If a teacher, if you can feel your teacher trusts you, that gives you so much confidence to engage with it.
Yeah, totally. She felt peer, but also a guide.
Yeah.
It was
that's
great.
So fun.
Yeah, I lucked out. She was great.
Have you watched any of the adaptation?
No.
No, me neither.
No, I've not. It's crazy that as we're going through these, I'm I haven't watched My Brilliant Friend.
No.
I haven't watched Small Things Like These. I haven't watched 100 Years of Solitude.
No.
And I hear they're making East of Eden into a TV series.
Are they? Because I was wondering that. Interesting.
Or a limited series or something.
Yeah.
And I think Florence Pugh is playing Kathy.
Is she? Because I was thinking about who would play that.
I mean, this is all
yeah.
Who knows if this is real or not? It's probably. I think it's definitely happening right now, and I could totally find out if it was real. But right now, I'm it's maybe real.
I think that I could see that.
And I heard Chris Abbott is playing Adam.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I wanted oh God, I'm having a brain fart. The woman who plays the Queen in The Crown. Olivia.
Colman.
Yes, I imagine like Olivia Colman playing Kathy at some of the older ages.
Ooh, that'd be
just
really
because
interesting.
can do that like sweetness and rage.
Totally. Did you watch the one with Jessie Buckley that she
yeah.
did? Oh, I loved that movie.
So
I thought it
good.
was so great. I thought they were both incredible.
They're both incredible.
Yeah, she can do nothing. Like Olivia Colman, it's just like every time she's just like home run every time.
Exactly. She was
So
always
good.
when like when you're younger and you're playing like and everyone's like, who would you want to play in the movie of your life? She was always my person.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
When I was younger, from like Peep Show and stuff, but also like because I was just like, she's
wow, that's
good.
A very good pick.
I'm like proud of it. It's aged well compared to everyone else's.
Like everybody else is like Paris Hilton.
Yeah. So true.
Sorry, no offense to Paris Hilton.
No,
but
we love Paris
I don't even think she's not even an actor.
No, she's not exactly. But
I was just thinking about something I was obsessed with
Celebrity.
in high school. I had like a weird obsession with Paris.
My year 8 book report and loads of people did Harry Potter and I did Victoria Beckham's autobiography. Learning to fly.
Listen.
I loved it so much.
Girl, there's something going on though. That woman she's capable.
Very capable.
Yeah, same with Paris, honestly.
Yes.
Like, you know what? I'm
stick
proud
by
of
your
my
choice,
Paris.
yeah.
But I remember at the time I like went to Target and I bought not an autobiography. It was a how to be Paris Hilton guidebook, and my parents were like, "Girl." I was like 15 or something, maybe 14. They're like, "What are we doing?"
What the book said.
I just remember one thing where it was like, when you go out to a bar, drink like a water out of a shot glass, like instead of vodka, and drink Red Bull. Instead
Not bad
of,
advice, honestly.
Yeah, totally.
Not bad advice.
Sober, I guess. Like
Yeah.
the idea was just like stay. And to be honest, I took that advice.
Yeah.
I didn't really, at least in high school and college, I did not drink at
Did you
all.
not?
No.
Not at all.
Yep, all because of Paris.
Wow.
Just kidding, not all because of Paris.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's not good for, I don't think it's like, yeah, it's not good for my, gene pool, I
Yeah.
would say.
We started young in England, unfortunately.
I mean, yeah, it's like so...
It's culturally, 15.
And you guys can, like, also just, like, handle it.
Put it away.
Yeah, totally. It's like, I would be dead after, like, 10 minutes of what you guys are doing.
I know, it really is habitual to the point that when I moved to America, it's quite nice to, like, not drink like that on a casual Wednesday.
And you live in New York, so that's saying something.
Yeah, exactly. No, but compared to London, I mean, I look back and, like, I remember one time telling a therapist, like, what do you drink? And I told him, and he was like, so you have a binge drinking problem.
Yeah,
I was like, no, I
totally.
don't. I was like, I could stop. And he was like,
Totally. He's like,
but he was more like, no, but just that's a lot. And I was like,
I know I have a few British friends, and they're like, this is not, like, this is nothing.
Yeah,
I'm
literally.
like, you just drink a bottle of wine a night. Like, that's wild.
Yeah.
But it's just so, like, they can take it. They don't even, like, seem like a different
No,
vibe.
no.
It's wild.
Yeah, and you do just get so good at, like, putting it away.
Yeah.
But-
And the Aussies. Because
they can
come,
too.
They come from...
Yeah,
British
I
stock.
know, they were the cons that were sent there, weren't they? So,
yeah, the bad boys.
Yeah,
the bad boys.
British bad boys. Well, this was so much fun.
Oh my God, I had the best time.
Good, thank you for doing it. And this was such a great conversation. I loved all your books.